Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I hope you can. So this evening we're going to run through TidyHQ and touch on just a few areas of TidyHQ. It's such a big platform that we'll probably be doing these over a series of these webinars. And so we hope you can join us for them. So the first three areas that we'll be going over are contacts, finances, and meetings. They're the three core areas, I suppose you could say, of the TidyHQ platform. And getting those three areas right alone will save you a huge amount of time. So without further ado, we'll just jump over to the dashboard. So one thing to remember is that when you first get on, it looks kind of bare, which can be a little bit intimidating. So it may not look as populated as this, but what we can do is soon fill it all up with everything that's going on around your organization. First thing to note is down the left-hand side, you'll see the various areas that your committee usually deals with. So depending on your permissions, you may not see all of these. Obviously, not everybody in the club needs access to finances and so on and so forth. You'll also see at the top right your profile. So this is where you can update your profile details. You can see what tasks are allocated to yourself. And you can also see what product updates have been happening around the Tidy Club platform. To the left of that, you can see what tasks have been added to yourself, and there's also a shortcut to the inbox. At any time, if you're getting lost, there's this question mark, which is a shortcut to help and support, which allows you to find anything that you want around groups or what have you, and it links to our support desk. So without further ado, let's head back to the dashboard. This gives you a nice sort of heads up display, a calendar view of everything that's going around the club. You can switch from month to week. We'll stick on the month. So this will display everything, incomes and expenses of various events that are happening around the place, as well as any upcoming meetings and any tasks that have been assigned throughout the months. At the top here, you can see when the next event is, when your next meeting is, how many members are current, and how many tasks have been assigned to yourself. Just a real simple, neat heads-up display. So the three areas, like I said, that we'll be focusing on today are contacts, finances, and meetings. So contacts are obviously found here. Finances are under the Finances tab, and Schedule Meetings is where you'll find all the meetings information. So we'll start with contacts. So everything within the TidyHQ platform revolves around a contact. So a contact can be regarded as a member if they hold a valid membership token. They could be regarded as a sponsor. They could be a parent. They could be any sort of stakeholder. Obviously, we realise that clubs have all sorts of people involved with them or interact with them. So what we're trying to do is allow you to capture everyone that gets involved with your group, and for succession planning, for longevity of the organisation, etc., we try and capture them and allow you to group them into as many groups as you want. And you can actually even automatically group them from events, but we might cover that another time. To add contacts into your database, you can do it a few ways. You can do it one by one, which is going through the new contacts section. But before we get there, we might just jump over to the organisation settings, because what you'll find at the bottom here in our demonstration account is that there's a bunch of fields that you might not have just yet. These are all custom fields. So you can add in any range of fields that we may not have provided you out of the box. So the way we can add further fields is going into the organisation settings. We might spend a little bit of time here because it's probably a first good step to setting everything up for your organisation. So initially, there's a bunch of settings submenu here. The first one's organisation details, which should be pretty straightforward. So this is everything that's going on for your club, all the details, where your club can be found, what email address the general public should use to get in touch with you, any shortcuts or links to Facebook. You can also set your logos and your colors, make it your own. We also have this thing called Scratchpad, which is a little place where you can keep various details about the club where you can't really fit anywhere else in here. So maybe you want to keep them down here on the Scratchpad. Second area is categories. So categories are used for finances and tasks. It allows you to budget to any sorts of areas. You can have as many categories as you want. You can also merge ones that may not be any good for you anymore. So what you can do is actually merge the primary with the secondary one if you make a mistake. And voila, that's all rolled up into the administration category. So you can add as many categories as you want. For example, t-shirts. And this allows you to then budget items under the t-shirts category. Moving on to custom fields. So here you can see all these custom fields that people have made in the demonstration account. So you can move these however you want, up and down. So there's no sort of limitation on these things. And down the right-hand side here, you can see the different sorts of custom fields that we can provide for. So we'll go through here and make a new one. Let's call it a certification. So we want people to be able to upload their certification, or maybe we want to do it in-house. So that's a file that we want people to upload, but it can be a text field, it could be a checkbox, it could be a group of checkboxes. A radio button is the little dot buttons that you can select, and it only allows you to select one at a time. It could be a drop down of different options. So here you could have first aid 1, you could have first aid 2, etc., etc. In a drop down, it could be a date, so when the certification was created, or it could be a file, so allowing someone to upload a file. Here you can allow users to change this field through their profile page. So this is, do you want Joe Public to be able to upload their own certification file, or is this something that you want to do internally? Just untick that so Joe Public can't upload it themselves, and it has to remain internally. So we can save that. I'll call it certification file just to be clear. What you'll see now is it's down the bottom here. We could move it up the top because we think this is something that's really, really important. And we'll have a look at this later, but remember certification file. We'll continue through the custom settings. So date, time, currency should be pretty straightforward. Should have automatically picked up a bunch of things from when you first signed up. The date, format, or if you're in the US, you can obviously switch that around for month, day, year. You can also adjust the time format to something that suits you. Currency should be fairly straightforward. We support all these currencies currently. That's mainly to align with our payment providers, Stripe and PayPal. That's why we don't have every currency in the world there, but we're supporting a good number. If your currency isn't on there, let us know and we'll see what we can do. Financial calendar, obviously your financial year may start in January. A lot of the sports, or if you're in the US, you might start in January. A lot of the sports like football, etc., might also have a financial calendar starting in January. In the UK, Australia, etc., you might start on the 1st of July. Time zone, obviously I'll let you pick that one, but we're in Melbourne, so we'll save that there. Invoices and expenses. So this is a prefix or an organisation number firstly. So you could have an Australian business number in here. You could have your UK charity number in there, any manner of things. So this is the number that the government may require you to have on your invoices, which can be important. You can add whatever sort of acronym you want in there. You can also prefix your invoice numbers. So you might want to put down there an acronym that gets placed in front of every invoice number. Your footer information for invoices and expenses, you might want to have bank details if you want to have people manually transfer of funds. So allowing you to manually, or allowing people to drop in their details into the bank account for yourselves, and that ends up being on every footer for every invoice and expense. Next, reference number. So this is something that we're automatically updating for you. So this is the reference number that we have for invoices and expenses. We also put in a custom one that's completely unique over the entire system that allows you to easily track the invoices and expenses. Next up, we'll head over to memberships. So this is the default waivers, welcomes, and expiry mails. So this is only for very first memberships that get set up. Memberships we'll cover in another webinar, so I won't go into too much detail. And head over to payment settings. Payment settings is obviously really critical for finances and everything else to work seamlessly. You could have people notified on payment, so primarily the treasurer. You might want to send him an email. SMS may be too much. You can send an email to John Citizen every time someone pays you, which can be pretty handy. Set up Stripe payments. So Stripe is a way to connect into your bank account. The Stripe fee varies around the world depending on which country they're operating in. There's our TidyHQ service fee that we add on top of whatever the Stripe service fee is. The same applies for PayPal. So in order to connect to your PayPal account, you just drop in your PayPal business number. For Stripe payments, you connect with Stripe. This will take you to the Connect Stripe website, where we'll ask you to add in your details, so you can quickly set all that sort of stuff up. We're a football club, etc., etc. If you're an ABN, you can put in the 9 digits as zeros, and Stripe will push that through for you. And you can fill out all the rest of the details. Once you're done, this usually takes about 4 minutes or so. You can authorize access to the account, and away you go. Stripe has been set up. And it means that you can now accept funds for your football club online, literally within 4 or 5 minutes. It's pretty seamless and very quick. So let us know if you have any issues with that at all. But very, very quick and easy. Moving on to users and roles. So these are your other administrators that you might want to invite to the platform to help you administrate things, to ease the load on yourself, which is pretty important. So very quickly, you can drop in someone into the system. You can take away, you might not want Sarah to have access to finances or memberships, for example, or even settings. So we'll take those away. We can invite her. She's now got an invitation in their inbox, and they can log on to the system. You can also reset their password from here. If they haven't been able to log in, you can resend the invitation. You can delete the user if you don't want them to have access. And you can obviously adjust their settings as well, depending on what you want them to do. So you can edit their user rights and add them to different areas if you so choose. Very, very quick and easy. A powerful part of the users and roles is the roles section. So I don't know if you've had this experience, but I certainly have, where you get to an annual general meeting, and at that AGM they suddenly thrust a role into your hands, or rather get you to put your hand up for a role that you're not too sure about what's going on. What we do is, out of the box, we make it really, really quick and easy for you to understand exactly what the role of president is, what objectives they have, relationships, accountabilities, and all those sorts of things. You can also add as many roles to your organisation as well. So you might have a under 14s coach, coach the under 14s, and you can put anything there is in there. You can also assign it to a person as well. Again, these 3 lines mean that you can click it up and drag. If you think the vice president should be up there and the secretary is more important, you can drag and drop. If someone gets switched over, you just assign a user. Vice president, Isaac's now vice president again. Save that. Treasurer, turns out Sarah's treasurer, which is why we invited her. Done. When you get to the AGM, you just hit print. we automatically generate a PDF that you can print off and take to the meeting and hand out to everyone, so you can see exactly who's in the current role and what roles and responsibilities they have for when they get into the job. So you know exactly what you can be expecting once you get into some of these roles, which is something that I personally really would have loved to have seen. Where it gets really interesting with roles is under tasks, where you, instead of assigning a task to an individual, you can assign them to one of these roles, which is really, really powerful stuff. So if you get, for example, if Sarah logs in now as treasurer, she can automatically see all the tasks that have been assigned to the treasurer's role. Very powerful thing that we'll cover in another webinar in more detail. Association settings is something that you probably don't need to worry about at this stage. These are all the parent or child organisations that may be connected to your organisation. If you're setting up this for the very first time, you may not have any associations to parent or child organisations. And again, that's something that we might cover in another webinar. Applications, this is something for the geeks amongst us. So if you've got a token nerd in your group, they can use this information to plug directly into your platform. So one of our core values is that your information is absolutely your information. So however third-party applications or however you want to access your data is completely in your hands. So we let you access that however you like. Finally is the public-facing page. So this is what Joe Public can see when they land on your website. So you can update your image that people see when they first land on you. You can see what information that you're putting out there. You can also add a feed and news feed if you really want. SEO enabled's a really good one. So that's if you want Google to scan your site, your TidyHQ site, and make sure that you're appearing in the search results for you. For some reason, some clubs don't need to or don't want to appear in search results. Obviously, Google will be Google and they'll hunt you out or hunt us out as best they can, but we can try. And so you can untick that box and ensure that you're not putting your hand up for Google searching. There's no promises, but we try for you. Finally, public contacts. So you can add in people that you want to advertise be out there in the wilderness. Etc. You can add them out there. If you don't want them, you can quickly delete them. Very quick and easy. Sponsors. So obviously you can add a sponsor very quick. Add their name, add in an optional URL. So if they've got a website that you want to connect to, then you can add them to your sponsors, list of sponsors. So that's all the settings that we've got. And once you've gone through all those and set it all up, your TidyHQ account's going to be looking and feeling a whole lot more personal, which is exactly what you want. So let's head back to contacts. So now if we go to the contacts, add a new contact, you can see all these details up here that we can start dropping in there. We'll go through, add them all in. One of the things that you'll see is there's now a certification file, which is that custom field that we had there previously. So I don't know what their certification file is. Let's just say it looks like this. We can quickly and easily add Jane into our demonstration account. Very, very quick and simple. You can see now the certification file is up there as the link to that image that I said. Within the contacts, you can obviously have an overview of Jane. She's brand new, so we haven't really set up and she hasn't had any activities within the account. You can obviously edit her details again. One of the very cool things that we do is that every time Jane interacts with your club, buys more tickets, pays for an invoice, updates her details, we're always updating her profile account within your football club or community club constantly. So we're always trying to give you or keep the latest information for your Jane Booker. Profile photo, obviously you can add Jane's photo if you really like. Who can see is if you've got a parent organisation, you can share that contact with them. You can also see what groups that she's in. So you might want to add her to the juniors group and the committee group out of the box. There's lots of groups there. People have been having fun. So you can instantly add her to whatever groups that you want. Speaking of groups, let's add a group. So a group is just a collection or collective of contacts. So you can have as many groups as you want, and they can be made up of all sorts of people. So let's start a 2016 Google webinar group. You can add a logo if you really want. We'll add this one here. It's almost time for breakfast. Group. Automatically populate. So if you had that group last year, you can automatically populate it with the contacts that attended or were in that group from previous years, which is a pretty quick and simple way to get things done. So if everyone came from the juniors from last year, you can add that, and you can certainly auto-populate it across. You can also allow for group messaging. That's something that we'll probably attack in another webinar. So we'll leave it for the time being. And who can see, this is again is for a parent organisation. So if you want to share this group of contacts with a parent group, you can do that here. Let's save this. Logo size must be less than 1 megabyte. And logo size must be less than 1, so we'll ignore the logo for the time being, save that. Here you can see we've got our Google webinar group, so you can quickly add people by hitting this plus sign. So you can add Reddit to the group, we can add Sarah to the group, Sari to the group, etc., etc. So here you can either email the group from here, again you can edit the group, you can have an overview of who is actually in the group, and you can import or rather export this group to a CSV file. You can even print it out into a PDF as well. So that's all the groups. Finally, there's importing of contacts. So when you're importing contacts, a few things to remember. One, make sure that you've set up all of the custom fields that you can possibly think of before trying to import a CSV or a spreadsheet of all your contacts. If there's an opportunity to segment all of your contacts beforehand, so that is break them down into groups, do that. That allows you to import each slice of your membership in those groups, or each slice of your contacts database in groups. That makes it much easier, or bite-size, to roll up contacts into the system, and you can automatically assign various columns or fields to your TidyHQ fields instantly. Very, very quick. If you have any issues, you can always roll back the import, and that will remove everyone from the system. Depending on how long it takes, obviously will vary. So that's contacts, which is pretty straightforward sort of stuff, I'd like to think. We'll skip over to meetings actually, because meetings is a really, well, it's something that I totally understated or underestimated the value of when I first set it up. But secretaries around the world are giving us some really good feedback about it all. So meetings are, I don't know if you've ever done this, but taking meeting minutes is really, can be a very painful experience, because people are talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's expected that you keep up and that you are transcribing everything onto pen and paper, and you're keeping up with the conversation. Not only that, you're helping shape the conversation. Quite often the conversation goes off on a tangent. So it's really important that we try and keep it all together. What we've built is a way to set up a new meeting, and we'll do this now. very, very quick and simple. So regular Hangout meeting. We can say that it's today. It's at 10 o'clock. Its location is in Melbourne. You can make it public if you really like, but it's more for annual general meetings. Most of the time you just want to keep it in-house or just with the committees. You can say what it was about, if it's a regular committee meeting or what have you. You can start to pick out who your minute takers were, who your attendees are expected to be. You could probably add everyone as an attendee initially. We'll save that for now. What we can do is get straight into the crux of it, which is topics. So when you're setting a meeting up, it's important to add topics. So these are items that you're going to think about. So one of the things that we're doing is evolving the way that a meeting is had. So traditionally you'd write up a big agenda, and you can still do that if you really want with the agenda topic items, but I dare say if you start thinking about the way that we are trying to run a meeting, you probably don't even need that agenda or agenda topic items too much. Instead, we provide these 4 other items. So that is a piece of information. It's either an idea, it's a to-do item or a task, or it's a decision. It's usually one of those 4 things. And the reason that we've kept it to those 4 is so that the meeting sort of stays on track, that people can look at the big screen, because lots of clubs or groups are putting this screen up on the television or up on the projector so everyone can see how quickly the minute taker is taking the notes down. And they can also keep a track of, oh, this was just an idea, we don't need to make a decision right now. This is a task, let's establish exactly what needs to get done. Or it's a decision, let's get to a decision and let's take a poll and work out what we're doing. So let's make it a piece of information. So meeting starts with some trumpets. It's always exciting. Sarah could do that. Michael Jordan could be responsible for it, or Isaac could be. So sounding trumpets. You can add as many notes as you want here to this topic. You can also add an attachment, which again, we'll put in a nice photo. We can save this. So you can have as many topics as you want. Let's put in another one really quickly. So we'll put in a to-do item. Let's say pick up the breakfast cereal. Food prompted me to pick up food. We can pick out when the due date is. So let's have a look. It's due in a few weeks on the 20th. The nice crunchy stuff. Make a note so Isaac knows which breakfast to get. We'll hit save. You can hit save a new topic if you're running through them quickly. We'll have an idea. Should we use orange juice for breakfast? This one, Sarah had that great idea. So thought, oops. So this is an idea, and we'll save that. So now we've got a bunch of different topics. And again, you can pick these up and move them around. Meeting starts with trumpets, obviously starts at the start. And you can see down here that a task has automatically been generated from this to-do item. So instantly we're reducing the workload by assigning a task, which will automatically get dropped into there. Isaac will automatically get emailed with the details of this to-do item or this task. What we find is that at the end of the meeting, you write down all the topics. Because people can see exactly what's been written on the screen, we find that the meetings go a lot quicker than what they usually do. And at the end of the meeting, all you have to go is send details. It'll automatically pick up everyone that was in the meeting. You can add anyone else that wasn't at the meeting that perhaps should get the meeting minutes, and you hit send details. Really, really quick and easy. You can see what the status is of those meeting minutes and who was sent. If you want to see what they look like, we hit print and we get this PDF, which is instantly formatted meeting minutes. So we've literally saved the secretary lots and lots of hours and days, and perhaps even not getting out the meeting minutes at all. So this way we have shortcutted the role of being a secretary or a minute taker dramatically, which is hugely beneficial for those in that volunteer role. And those of experience will understand what I'm saying here, that it can be a very, very painful experience. And sometimes you don't even get around to figuring out what your handwriting was, putting it into a Word document, PDFing it, remembering who everyone's email address is and sending it off. That can be a quite tedious experience. So shortcutting that down means that what we're finding is secretaries are staying around longer because all of a sudden their job is super, super simple and easy. So that's meetings or meeting minutes. So we'll move on to, give me one moment. So we'll move on to finances. Let's have a look at this. So with finances, obviously we've already gone through the organization settings and we've set up our payment settings to make sure that we can receive funds, which is most important. Once you've set that up, you can come back in here, and the first thing you probably want to do is create a deposit. You can create it as anonymous, because what you want to do is put in the bank balance as a starting point. So, or if you want to reconcile, you can do that and name it on the April. You can choose that as administration. And basically what we're doing here is just balancing up the books to make sure that we've got the right amount of cash, or the cash amount lines up with what's in the bank account. Very simple, but it means that you're off to a start. So we'll save that. Now books are balanced. So let's have a quick look at how all this works. So this is the dashboard. Once you see payments coming through, you'll start to see how all this works. So this gives you a really nice heads-up display as to what the net financial position is in the club, which is something that I always pine for, which is sometimes always kept on a treasurer's spreadsheet tucked away somewhere, or maybe in some fancy accounting package that I didn't have access to or I didn't understand. This way we're keeping it really, really simple. You can see exactly where all your money's coming from and perhaps where it's all going. And as someone, or as an administrator or someone in a decision-making role, it's a really nice sort of heads-up display that perhaps will flag for you where you're spending your money and where money's coming from. So for example, catering, we're spending $1,185 on it, but we're only making $776 in income from it. So it means that some of the pies are going missing. Isaac's probably been down at the club and taken a few. So it flags some things immediately for you to keep an eye on, which is really, really good. Recent transactions is just a list of the transactions, which we'll go into soon. This is a general balance, income and expenses, how you've been traveling. In here, you can go back in time, depending on how long you've been running with TidyHQ. You can obviously start to get a bit of a profile as to what's going on. You might be able to start to see some trends that every year around this time you get a membership drive, so you get all the income in through the year, compared to this time last year where it was sort of staggered over December, January and February. We seem to have smashed it all in January, so it could be a real positive for us. Skipping over to transactions. So transactions looks probably like what you'd find in your online bank statement. This gives you a really clear, simple to understand way to go through all your finances or the transactions where it starts to get really interesting is that you can click on some of these numbers and you can start to adjust bits and pieces. So you can see here that Jordan paid on the 22nd of March for a membership fee, making sure that we remember that a new deposit assigned to a membership category does not link into an actual membership, something really critical and people sometimes forget. Turns out that Jordan didn't pay cash, he actually paid with a bank transfer. You can put in an optional reference number if you put that in there. And you can add as many notes as you want. You can also do, this is obviously a link to the contact. This is a link to the memberships area and the actual deposit. Up here, you'll see that you can delete deposits. You can only delete manually imported deposits and expenses. Anything that was done through a Stripe payment or a PayPal payment, you can't delete because it actually happened. So the only way to do it is either to refund the payment, which you can again do through this section, or you can edit it. If Jordan wants a record, a physical record, you can print this out and hand it to him. And we'll head back to the list of transactions. The other box here is that you can manually reconcile these boxes. These don't sync up with your bank account details at all. Basically, it's just a visual cue to allow you to flag records that you have registered in both your bank statement as well as your financials within the TidyHQ system. So before we go any further, let's have a look at these other areas. So new deposit, new expense, and new invoice. So new deposit is someone's come up to you and given you cash. So that's something that you can deposit into the bank. There's an expense, so that's something that you as a group or organisation have paid money for or are looking to pay money for. An invoice is something that you're hoping that Isaak will pay for in the future. So for example, we can say that Isaak, okay, this is an invoice. We want him to pay on the 21st rather. It'll be called t-shirts because he likes t-shirts. The category that we just set up. An item, so if there was shirt 1 and this one was $25, we can add another line item. This is another, call this one a blue shirt, and this one's only $20. See that the total amount's automatically been lined up for you. You can add an attachment if there's a photo of the attachment. What you can do is preview the email that's going to be sent out to Isaak so he can see this is what's going out to him. You can see the ABN, which is in the settings that you've set up. You can see where the billing address is, and he'll have this option to click the Pay Now button, provided that you've set up Stripe or PayPal. That'll be illustrated to him and he can pay you instantly there and then. And when he does, it'll obviously automatically reconcile into your books. So you can send the email off to Isaak. He's now got an invoice in his inbox, and this will automatically drop into the Who Owes Us. So if you look under T-shirts, you'll see that Isaak owes $45. He's got 16 days till it's due, and that's the category that it's been dropped under, and that's the reference number that he's been given for it. So as a group, you can see exactly who owes us, who owes the organisation, and who does the organisation owe. You can drill down into these areas. You can see this is 66 days overdue. This one's well over a year due. This gives you a bit of a flag, so maybe we'll delete this one because it's a bad debt. We aren't going to pay it. Turns out that these professional fees, he didn't actually come and attend, or he didn't do what he said he was going to do, so we're going to delete that from our books. and it's done and it's gone. So that's how you add, and the same applies for deposits and invoices and expenses. It's all fairly straightforward through, again, picking up different groups. You can add Michael Jordan in here. It's called the North Carolina Shorts. I think that is, put it in there. It's actually merchandise. It's $40. $50 we paid Michael. We paid him today. So we paid out today. We paid him cash. We'll hit save. And there we go. He's straight into it. So we paid Michael Jordan. Cost us $50. There's drafts, so you would have seen that you could save it as a draft. Obviously, we collect all the drafts in here. People often save drafts and then they forget about them. So that's not unusual. You can go through these and delete them, which is always good housekeeping, keeping everything neat. You can also see a budget. This is fairly rudimentary at this stage. We've got some good ideas about how to fix all this sort of stuff up. These are the two areas that are really good for you. So actuals are actual money that's been coming in the door. So that'll obviously tie up automatically if people are paying online for you. Budget is something that you can easily just click on the cell and say we're going to make $400 from events in September. We think we're going to make $800 in October. Down here, we can say that we're going to spend $200 at this event in this month and $100 here. That's it. That's pretty simple, and we can compare that against the actuals. Obviously, that's fairly rudimentary. We're going to be making a bunch of improvements around these things. Finally, it's reports. So, excuse me. Reports are fairly straightforward again, and we'll be building on some further ones in the not too distant future. But effectively, you can have a bunch of transactions for the year. It'll automatically default to the start of the financial calendar. So some people get freaked out at the very start of the financial calendar because it'll only default to 2 days or something along those lines. So make sure that you're aware of that. So let's have a look from the start of the year. You can also drill down to a specific group of people. So this group's a committee. We'll print that. We'll see if there's any transactions for that committee. You can see these are all the transactions within this group. Looks like Isaac's been doing a lot of stuff. And you've instantly got everything around that group of people, which can be good for a team or what have you. The same applies for income and expenses. You can see what incomes and expenses you've had for a period of time. So that is, again, how we do this. And you can have a report that'll go over everything that you need that you can hand out at the committee meeting and run over. Money overdue is exactly like this, but obviously within a PDF. So it's this here, but within a PDF. So if we print that out, this is again something that you can bring to the committee meeting and show exactly clearly what's going on. Obviously, there's £50 outstanding, which we might want to get rid of because it's probably not going to happen. That's a bit of an anomaly, but everything else you can see exactly what's going on. So very, very quick and simple to do your job as a treasurer. It's super, super simple. If everyone's paying online, especially, it shortcuts everything quite dramatically and shortcuts your workload by a tremendous amount. So that's how you set up those 3 areas. They're the main 3 areas of TidyHQ, or the first 3 areas. There's a bunch more to go. We might do it in another session. But if you get those areas done, you get your settings set up, You get your contacts imported. You start scheduling some meetings. Your secretary will genuinely love the way that meetings are done. We hear it all around the country, all over the world, in fact, how much better their meetings are being had as a result. And finances. So again, treasurers spend on average about 10 hours every week doing their organisation's finances, depending on the organisation. What we're finding is we're reducing that down to an hour, which is a huge, huge saving. And it means also that you've got transparency and a whole bunch of governance around the way that your organisation's being run. So all of a sudden, the president and the vice president can also see exactly what the financial position is, rather than just relying on one individual, which is really, really important in helping to spread the load. What we also find is that the other people in the organisation pick up on this. They can see if you're stressed out or not enjoying your time as being secretary or treasurer. And what they find is that because your job is so much easier, that their work is much better as well. So they can sense that, and what they end up doing is putting their hand up and being secretary and treasurer or president or what have you, because all of a sudden they can see that it's not that much more work. And so we've got a bunch of really good areas where we can see that, or good case studies rather, where we can see that clubs and organisations are attracting and retaining their people, their administrators, their volunteers, because their job has all of a sudden been made a whole bunch easier. Really hoped you enjoyed that hangout. That's about it from us. Let us know what you thought of it and provide any feedback. Obviously, we're listening all the time, and we're going to do a few more of these, so your feedback would be really, really valuable. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.